The other thing I'm going to talk about tonight is it kind of impacts on the whole area as well, is the thing of identity theft. It was something that was largely unknown in real terms going back 40, 50 years ago, except for our famous conmen. And in fact, Cork produced several notable conmen over the years. But identity theft in the current world has become a big, big business, largely because people are purchasing goods either online, by phone, or from people that they don't know. So the steps, the verification steps that are there, particularly for online transactions, are not quite as severe as they perhaps should be. If a person can get your identity, what they will first of all go for are documents. If they can get documents, legal documents, purporting to be you, that opens up a whole realm of what they can actually access. Credit card fraud is probably the most common form of it. In other words, I pretend to be you, I get a credit card and I use it without your knowledge, and you end up with the bill. In most cases, the credit card company will wipe the loss, because credit card companies are making so much money that it's easier for them to wipe the loss than risk losing customers. I mean, if you make a cash withdrawal on a credit card, you're fully going to understand that, because cash withdrawals, what are they charged at? 18%? 19%? So if you were paying that on a cash withdrawal, that'll give you an indication of exactly what credit card companies are making. For the most part, if you look at the last 2 or 3 years, very few people are in a position to clear a credit card bill every month. And unfortunately, and it's been brought out by groups like St. Vincent de Paul, that people that were once relatively comfortable under the Celtic Tiger and would have paid utility bills every month are now stretched. And what they're doing is they're using credit cards to pick up the slack, which is one step above really going to moneylenders, in that you suddenly end up owing utility bills, not able to pay them, maybe in mortgage arrears, and with a maxed out credit card, which you're being hammered on interest for. And it just makes instead of addressing it at an early stage, you end up buying a month, maybe 2 months, and ending up with a huge debt at the end of it. But I mean, identity fraud it's very much an American. The link between the States and the Far East on identity theft is astonishing. I mean, identity theft can affect your credit rating. In the United States, if you're a victim of identity theft, unless you're extremely diligent, it will actually affect your ability to get a loan, sometimes get a mortgage, sometimes get a new credit card, because that little tick will be against your name. There are 2 or 3 very well-known cases of, in one particular case, a woman in Florida had bought houses under the name of someone else, had actually taken it to that degree, and in the end the police weren't even sure who was who. That's the lengths that they had gone to. Now obviously there's, I'd say, psychiatric issues involved in some of this, because it makes no sense for someone to go down that road, but that's exactly where it can lead, in terms of membership of clubs, in terms of travel, in terms of whole credit worthiness, being able to get a mortgage, being able to get a car. The other thing, of course, is in terms of driving licenses. I mean, there's huge issues there in terms of, if they can get a driving license, if they can get a photograph of you, licenses are relatively easy to alter and fake, and someone is then driving under your license, which means they can rent a car. Do you know what I mean? They can rent a truck, all these things. I mean, the ingenuity that goes into some of these scams is absolutely astonishing. That people want your money. You don't want to give it up. So they have to think up ways of conning or bringing down your defences so they can actually get access to your cash.
So if they have a certain amount of information, there could be a double of you in some other, in India, for example?
Yeah.
With the paperwork?
No, yeah, certainly in terms of credit cards, yeah.
Or in terms of, like, if you lost qualification documents and stuff like that, and all your history?
Travel documents are difficult. Travel documents, I mean, as we've learned in the last year, normally travel documents are only copied by governments. And we've had two very famous examples in the last year of Irish people who either lost passports or who applied for visas through specific embassies and ended up with their passport being cloned. Now in one case, that passport was used as part of an assassination. So it's quite a serious, issue. But I think for the most part, it's the financial documents that they go for. But if an identity document, like a driving license or whatever, can help them get access to a credit card, a debit card, a bank account. Bank accounts are sacrosanct, because if they can get a bank account in a somewhat reputable country, it allows them to do so many different things in terms of transferring funds in and out. Like the old rule about you never give anyone your bank account details. Absolute written in stone. You never do, unless you're absolutely certain you know who you're giving it to, because what it opens up is such a can of worms. I had one friend actually who, what happened was his laptop, whatever he was doing anyway, his laptop was breached, and guys downloaded all his financial information and basically got into his bank accounts, were setting up direct debits, were transferring cash. He didn't notice it for about 3 weeks, and he had a 6-month battle with the bank to convince them that he wasn't doing any of this, that this was all part of electronic theft or electronic conning. I know National Irish Bank, which is Danish owned, they take enormous pride in their online security, and I think all banks now do take it very seriously because of the potential. From the bank's point of view, they want you doing your business online. Why? Because it's cheaper for them. They don't have to pay for a bank branch, they don't have to have staff in the bank if you're willing to do all of your stuff online. It's cheaper for them. So I agree with you, they do take it seriously, but I still think that the level of online fraud, it's not in the bank's best interest, I think, to admit to what level it's at. 3-4 years ago, a man was walking by the old railroad line and noticed what he thought were old bank statements. And when he went over, he found piles of old bank statements which had been given by a bank to a refuse contractor, who had given it to a subcontractor, who had dumped them by the rail line. Readily identifiable. Everything, account numbers, debits, the whole lot were all legible from it. Now, they were about 8 years old at that stage. But, it's an indication that security sometimes is not taken seriously by the people you think should take it most seriously. Maybe I'm being too paranoid, but like when we have financial documents at home, I burn them. I don't even trust shredding them. They go into the fire to make sure they're perfectly destroyed. If I'm throwing stuff into the bin, generally I take off my name and address, so that you have household rubbish, but there's not names or addresses or anything useful financial. I wouldn't consider the steps I take to be any way onerous. They're just mechanical at this stage for me. It's as easy for me to rip it off as it is to throw the entire thing into the bin. Maybe I am being paranoid by doing it, but an old buddy of mine once said to me, he said, always remember, even paranoids are right once in a while.
Do you think like the social networks that we have today, do you think they're going to become a problem in the future with regards identity theft?
I think they're a problem now,
Yeah.
if you ask me honestly. I'll ask another question. How many people are on Facebook? Bebo? Well, Bebo's gone now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that'll tell you about a troglodyte. I don't even know it's gone. If you go on Facebook, I know that they have improved their security, but it's not that difficult to get access to your site. And I'll give you 2 examples. Number one, I covered a court case 2 years ago, quite a serious court case, where a lady was giving evidence about the issue involved. She gave her evidence. The defense solicitor stood up, and in his hand, he had the entire printout of her Facebook page. Everything. All her personal comments, the whole lot. And proceeded to take her apart bit by bit in terms of her credibility.
she given a story, was it? And
No, she didn't. That's the point.
or,
A friend of hers, who she had fallen out with, had given the defence team access to her site. And remember, everything you post on Facebook and online is there forever. You can't change your mind. You can't think, maybe I shouldn't have called him a bastard. He's my boss now. It's not a good idea. It's there. There's no taking it back. As a general comment, now, we're a family newspaper, so we would never ever do this, right? But when you look at tragedies or car accidents, or in some cases murders, and you see a photograph of the victim, in a significant number of those cases, that photograph has not been issued by the family. That photograph has been taken from where? Exactly. I mean, the whole thing about identity, it's a two-way street, like not only your own identity, but the identity of the person you're dealing with. Are they who they say they are? And as regards Facebook or any of these social networking sites, the rule of thumb, and trust me, because I was in court and I saw it happen to a person, and she literally fell apart, she couldn't believe it. You put online what you're happy for someone to show in a court of law, or for someone to show your best friend or your auntie. You know what I mean? To be so careful about posting stuff that it doesn't, like, how many people here would believe that in recruitment sessions, a person's Facebook page is now analysed? It is. It is.